The battlefield was silent after the long night of fighting. Smoke still floated in the air and pieces of broken machines lay across the ground. In the middle of this ruined place, an alien war dog lay on its side, barely breathing. It was a Ravox, a creature once known for its strength and sharp senses. Now it could not even lift its head. Its body was covered in dust and old battle marks. Its armor was cracked, its legs weak and its heart confused. It remembered running with its unit, fighting beside them, obeying every command without fear. But when the final attack came, its legs gave out. The others ran forward, and never came back. They did not look behind. They did not try to help it. They left it there to face the end alone. The Ravox did not understand betrayal. It only knew loyalty. And because of that, the silence hurt more than the wounds. Hours passed, and the sun slowly rose over the destroyed land. The Ravox expected enemies to appear, or maybe the cold to take it. Instead, it heard distant voices, soft, not angry, not shouting commands. These voices were unsure, almost gentle. It tried to move, but pain shot through its ribs, and it let out a low whine without meaning to. The voices stopped. Then footsteps approached. A group of humans walked carefully, searching the battlefield for survivors. They wore light armor and carried scanning tools. They expected to find no one alive. When they saw the large creature lying still, they froze. One of them raised a scanner. Another held up a hand, warning the others to stay back. "It's a Ravox. The enemy used them," one of the humans whispered. "But it's not moving," another replied. "It looks hurt." The Ravox watched them with tired eyes. In its old training, it was taught to fear humans, to attack on sight. But it had no strength left. It expected them to end its suffering or walk away like its own army did. Instead, a young human named Ava stepped forward. She was smaller than the others, but her eyes were sharp with calm focus. She held no weapon in her hands, only a small medical light. "It's scared," Ava said quietly. "Look at its eyes. It doesn't want to fight." The others hesitated. The Ravox's kind had caused damage in past battles. Saving one would be a risk. But Ava knelt down slowly, keeping her hands open and visible. Her movements were careful, like she was approaching a wounded dog on Earth. She kept her distance but made sure the creature could see her. The Ravox watched her with confusion. Humans were supposed to be loud and angry. But this one was soft and calm. She spoke in a low, steady voice, not knowing if it understood anything. "You're not alone anymore," she said. "We're here. We won't hurt you." The Ravox's ears twitched. It did not understand the words, but the tone felt different from anything it had heard in the war. Ava looked at the others. "If we leave it here, it will die. But look at it, there's no fight left in it. It's just tired." The team whispered among themselves. They could not ignore a living creature, even an old enemy. Finally they agreed. They slowly prepared a lifting stretcher, keeping their movements slow. The Ravox made a weak growl when they got too close, but Ava placed her hand gently on the ground, letting the creature smell her. She did not touch it directly, but she stayed where it could see her face. "It's okay," she whispered. "We're trying to help." For the first time since its army left it behind, the Ravox felt something warm inside. It was not trust yet, but it was something new, something that made it stop resisting and let the humans come closer. Together, the team carefully raised the heavy creature and placed it on the stretcher. The Ravox did not fight. It only watched Ava, its tired eyes following her calm movements. As they carried it back toward their transport shuttle, the wind blew across the battlefield, carrying the last traces of the night's battle away. The Ravox slowly closed its eyes, not in fear but in relief. It did not understand humans. It did not know their ways or their rules. But it knew one thing for certain. These humans had not abandoned it. And for a creature who had only known war, that small act of kindness felt like the first piece of hope it had ever been given. The healing station was quiet as the humans carried the injured Ravox inside. Bright lights shined above and the air smelled clean. The war dog's breathing was weak, but its eyes stayed open, watching everything with fear and confusion. It had never been in a human place before. It did not know what these lights were or why no one was shouting orders. Ava walked beside the stretcher, keeping her steps slow and calm. She could see the creature's muscles tighten whenever someone moved too quickly. Even in its weak state, the Ravox did not trust them. It kept its ears flat and its gaze sharp, waiting for danger. When they placed it gently on a padded bed, the Ravox tried to push itself up, but pain forced it down again. It let out a low growl that was more fear than anger. The human stepped back, but Ava stayed in front of the creature, kneeling so it could see her hands. It's okay, she whispered. We're not your enemies. The Ravox did not believe her. It had been trained to fight humans. Its old trainers had told it stories that humans were cruel, that they would kill any Ravox without hesitation. Its memories were full of fear and punishment. So why were these humans acting different? A medic named Rian approached slowly with a device. We need to scan its injuries, he said. Just keep it calm. Ava nodded. She kept her voice soft, talking gently even though she knew the creature could not understand every word. Rian moved the scanner over the Ravox's cracked armor and bruised ribs. The light made the creature flinch. Its tail twitched and its claws dug slightly into the padding. Rian paused and stepped back. It thinks we're trying to hurt it, he whispered. Of course it does, Ava replied. It's never known kindness. The Ravox listened to their voices. They were calm, not angry. But fear was stronger than curiosity. When Rian reached out again, the Ravox snapped weakly, not to bite but to warn. Ava quickly placed herself in front of Rian. Stop, she said softly. Let me try. She sat down on the floor, close enough for the creature to see her clearly but far enough to not threaten it. She stayed quiet for a few moments. The Ravox's breathing slowed a little, watching her. Then she did something unexpected. She removed her gloves and placed one bare hand on the floor between them. She did not touch the creature, she only offered her scent. The Ravox stared at the small, open hand. In its old training, humans were always covered in armor, loud and metal. This human was showing her skin, soft, unprotected. It did not make sense. Why would an enemy show weakness? Ava waited. Slowly, the Ravox leaned forward and sniffed the air. It smelled something warm, gentle, without fear. The creature's eyes softened just a little, not trust, but a beginning. Rian tried again with the scanner, moving slowly. This time the Ravox only watched. It still did not trust them, but Ava's calm presence kept it from panicking. Hours passed as the humans cleaned its wounds, removed broken armor pieces, and wrapped its injuries with soft bandages. Every time someone new approached, the Ravox growled. Every time Ava spoke, the growling stopped. The team noticed. You're the only one it listens to, Rian said. Ava looked at the creature. It's not listening to my words, she said. It's listening to my heart. It knows I don't want to hurt it. The Ravox did not understand her language, but it understood tone, warmth, and the absence of threat. It lay still, breathing slowly, exhausted. Later that night, when the other humans left the room, Ava stayed. She sat beside the bed, keeping a small lamp on so the creature wouldn't wake in darkness. She opened a ration pack and ate quietly. The Ravox watched her, surprised that she would rest near it. You're safe, she said softly. I know you don't trust us. But one day, maybe you will. The Ravox blinked slowly. Trust was a word it did not know. Safety was something it had never felt. But the human girl's voice felt steady, like a warm wind after a long winter. As the night grew deeper, the creature finally closed its eyes. It did not sleep fully, but it allowed itself to rest. Ava stayed awake, keeping watch, not because she feared the Ravox but because she wanted it to know it was not alone. It was the first night in its life where the creature was not abandoned, not punished, not used. It still did not trust humans. But for the first time ever, it did not fear them. The next morning, the sun rose over the human base, filling the healing room with soft light. Ava walked in quietly with a small tray of food. She expected the Ravox to still be resting, but instead she found the creature standing, shaky but standing. Its claws were pressed into the floor for balance, and its tail trembled slightly. You shouldn't be up yet, Ava said gently. The Ravox turned its head toward her. Its breathing was rough, and its injured leg shook under its weight. But it refused to lie down. It was a creature trained to show strength even when broken. In its old world, weakness meant punishment. Ava set the tray down and slowly approached. She knew any sudden movement might startle it. It's okay, she whispered. You don't need to force yourself. The Ravox let out a low sound, not angry but stubborn. It wanted to show it was still strong. To show it didn't need human help. But its body disagreed. After a few seconds, its legs wobbled, and it fell back onto the bed with a heavy sigh. Ava moved closer and placed a blanket beside it. You can be strong and still rest, she said. The Ravox stared at her with tired eyes. It didn't understand her words, but something in her tone made its chest loosen. It no longer felt like it needed to fight all the time. Rian entered the room with a small device. Good morning, he said. We need to check how the healing is progressing. The Ravox tensed immediately, eyes narrowing. Ava placed her hand gently on the side of the bed. It's okay. They're here to help. Her voice was soft, steady, and warm. The Ravox focused on that voice until its breathing slowed. Rian scanned the creature again. Its muscles are stronger than any species we've seen, he said quietly. Even injured, its body is repairing itself faster than expected. Ava looked at the creature. So it's healing on its own? Not on its own, Rian replied. But with far more strength than we thought it had. The Ravox listened to them speak. It didn't understand the details, but it knew one thing. Its strength had always been used for war, for orders, for fear. It had never known that its strength could be something more. When the humans left the room, Ava stayed behind. She opened the ration pack and placed a small piece of food near the Ravox's bed. It sniffed carefully. For a long moment it did nothing. Then slowly it picked up the food and ate it. Ava smiled softly. See? That wasn't so bad. Later that day a storm passed over the base. Thunder echoed through the walls and the Ravox instantly froze. Its eyes widened and its claws dug into the bed. On its home world, thunder meant airstrikes. Meant danger. Ava noticed the sudden fear. She moved toward it slowly and sat beside the bed. You're safe, she whispered. The Ravox didn't believe her. Every memory told it that loud noises meant pain. It jumped to stand again, ignoring the burning pain in its limbs. For a moment, it looked like it might try to escape the room. Ava placed her hand gently on its arm, light, careful, not forcing. The Ravox froze. Her voice came again, warm and steady. You don't have to fight the storm. The creature looked at her. Its breath was shaking. Its heart raced. But her touch didn't hurt, it soothed. Gradually, its muscles relaxed and it lowered itself back onto the bed. Ava stayed beside it as the thunder rolled across the sky. She talked quietly, telling stories about Earth storms, how humans used to sit near windows and watch the rain. The Ravox didn't understand the words, but it understood her calm. Slowly the fear eased. Hours later, when the storm had passed, something happened that Ava did not expect. The Ravox shifted closer to her and placed its heavy head near her knee, not touching her but close enough to show trust. Ava froze for a moment, then smiled. You're stronger than you know, she whispered. The Ravox wasn't sure if it liked this feeling. It wasn't fear and it wasn't anger. It was something new, something it had never been allowed to feel. Safety. Its hidden strength had always been its power to fight, to survive. But now, for the first time, the Ravox discovered another strength. The strength to trust. And deep inside, though the creature didn't understand it yet, that strength was far greater than any weapon it had ever been forced to carry. The night was calm around the human base. Most soldiers were resting and the lights inside the corridors glowed softly. Ava checked on the Ravox one last time before her shift ended. The creature had finally fallen into a peaceful sleep, breathing slow and steady. It no longer jumped at every sound. It no longer waited for punishment. It was healing, not just its body but its heart. Ava smiled quietly and whispered, "Good night." She turned to leave. But before she could reach the door, the alarms exploded through the base. A deep red light flashed along the ceiling. The sound was sharp, loud, and urgent. Ava's heart jumped as a voice echoed through the speakers. Alert! Enemy craft approaching. Unknown signature, possible Krajan strike. The Ravox jerked awake instantly. Its ears shot up and its claws scraped the metal floor. It recognized the name. The Krajan were its former masters. The ones who trained it, used it, and left it to die. They had returned. Ava ran to the side of the bed. It's okay. You're safe here, she said quickly, but she could already see the fear rising in the creature's eyes. Outside, explosions cracked in the distance. The ground trembled. The Ravox's entire body stiffened with terror. Every memory of the battlefield came rushing back. Bang. Orders. Punishment. Abandonment. It stood up on shaky legs, growling weakly, not at Ava, but at the fear that pulled at its mind. A group of human soldiers rushed past the hallway. One of them stopped at the door. Ava, you need to get to safety. Enemy ships are landing. But the Ravox. We can't protect both you and it. We don't know what they're here for. Ava knew exactly what they were here for. She looked at the creature. They want you back, or they want you dead. The Ravox lowered its head, ashamed. It thought the humans would now abandon it too, just like the Krajan did. It waited for Ava to run. Instead, Ava moved closer. I'm not leaving you, she said. The creature blinked, confused. Another explosion shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Ravox stepped forward, placing itself between Ava and the door, not as a fighter but as instinct. It wanted to protect her, though it didn't know how. Then a heavy crash came from outside the building. The Krajan soldiers had landed. Their footsteps echoed through the outer corridors, hard, metallic, cold. The Ravox's breathing turned rapid. It backed away toward the corner, shaking. These were the same voices that once commanded it. The same steps it used to follow without question. But now, for the first time, it did not want to return to them. Ava knelt beside the creature. "Listen to me," she said gently. "You are not theirs anymore. You choose your path now." The Ravox stared at her with wide eyes. Just. No one had ever given it a choice. Suddenly the door to the room slid open with a violent hiss. 2 Krajan soldiers stepped inside, tall and armored, holding weapons that glowed with blue energy. Their helmets shone with sharp edges, their voices mechanical. "There it is," one said, pointing at the Ravox. "Retrieve the asset." The Ravox let out a broken growl. It wanted to be strong, but its body was still weak. It stepped back, trembling, pressing itself against the wall. Ava moved in front of it. "You're not taking it," she said firmly. The Krajan soldiers stared at her as if she were insane. "Human," one hissed coldly, "this creature belongs to us." "No," Ava said. "It never belonged to anyone." The Ravox watched her, stunned. No human had ever stood between it and danger. No one had ever defended it from its own masters. The Krajan stepped forward, raising their weapons. In that moment, fear burned away inside the Ravox. Something deeper rose up, something that had been hidden beneath years of control. Not anger. Not pain. A decision. The creature pushed itself forward, placing its damaged body between Ava and the soldiers. It bared its teeth, not in hate but in protection. The Krajan hesitated. "It defends her?" one muttered, confused. Ava placed her hand on the Ravox's shoulder. "You're stronger than they ever understood." The Ravox felt her hand, warm, steady, fearless, and something inside it awakened. With a roar that shook the room, the creature lunged forward. Not as a weapon. Not as a slave. But as something free. The Krajan stumbled back, surprised. They did not expect resistance from a creature they believed broken. Human soldiers arrived seconds later, firing warning shots that forced the Krajan to retreat into the hallway. The Ravox collapsed from exhaustion, and Ava caught its head gently. "You did it," she whispered. "You chose your side." The Ravox breathed heavily, but its eyes were calm. It touched its forehead lightly against Ava's arm, a gesture it didn't fully understand but one that felt right. The enemy had returned. But this time the Ravox wasn't alone. The war field was quiet for the first time in months. Smoke no longer covered the sky, and broken machines finally stopped burning. Humans and Ravox troops stood together now, something no one ever believed would happen. In the center of it all stood Commander Hale and the Ravox war dog Corax. They were side by side, watching as soldiers repaired what remained of the battlefield. Corax had changed more than anyone expected. He was stronger now, but also calmer. He no longer growled at every human who walked near him. Many soldiers even smiled when they saw him. Some felt safe around him. Others felt hope. A creature once made only for violence had become a symbol of peace. But the war was not over yet. The enemy, the Varkan Dominion, gathered their forces again. Their ships blocked the sky like dark mountains. Their weapons were far stronger than before. Everyone knew the final battle would decide everything. If the Varkan won, both humans and Ravox would fall. On the night before the last fight, Hale sat beside Corax. The Ravox rested quietly, his breathing slow and steady. Hale placed a hand on his armored fur. "You don't have to fight," Hale said softly. "You've done enough." Corax lifted his head and looked at Hale with steady eyes. There was no fear in them. Only loyalty. Only trust. The creature who once thought humans were dangerous now trusted a human more than anyone in his own army. When the final battle began, the ground shook with the weight of marching machines. The air burned with explosions. Humans and Ravox fought side by side. Corax stayed close to Hale, moving with speed and power that shocked even the enemy. Every time soldiers were trapped, Corax broke through enemy lines to save them. Every time someone fell, Hale and Corax fought harder to protect the rest. The Varkan soldiers tried to separate them. They sent drones and heavy mechs to strike Corax down, but the war dog refused to fall. Hale covered him with precise shots while Corax leapt onto enemy machines, tearing through metal with strength no human could match. Then came the largest enemy walker, a towering metal beast with enough fire to destroy an army. It moved toward the human command post. One hit would end everything. Corax looked at Hale. Hale looked at Corax. They both knew what had to happen. "Let's end this," Hale whispered. They charged. Corax leapt onto the walker's leg, ripping through cables and joints. Hale climbed up beside him, firing into openings that Corax created. The walker shook, sparks flying, alarms screaming. But they did not stop. With one final strike, the walker collapsed. The explosion threw Hale to the ground. Corax covered him with his body, shielding him from the blast. When the dust cleared, the field was silent again. Humans and Ravok soldiers raised their weapons in victory. The Varkon forces retreated. The war was finally ending. Hale stood up slowly and looked at Corax. The war dog was tired, breathing heavily but alive. Hale placed both hands on the creature's face. "You saved us," he whispered. "You saved everyone." Corax leaned gently into his hands. The soldiers around them watched quietly. They knew they weren't just looking at a soldier and his war dog. They were looking at something far greater. A bond that changed an entire war. A bond that made two species allies. A bond that proved trust could grow even in the darkest places. And from that day on, whenever someone spoke about the final battle, they always began with the same words. It was the day a human and a Ravok's war dog changed the future, together.